we have a guest. Before we get to the guest, I'm going to show you why he's here. I spent a couple of days at Hillhead, and I saw Liebherr, and I saw Hyundai, and Komatsu, and JCB, and all of the major manufacturers came away very impressed indeed. But I was more impressed by something that I saw for the first time in person, and it looked like this.
My name is Florian, and I'm the director for the business area automotive at Hammerglass. It is a 300 times stronger than glass, unbreakable solution for construction machines, where you can replace the regular glass windows with our material and be safe in your daily work environment. It's a polycarbonate, a very special one, secret in the composition of the material that makes it extremely break resistant, but also optical very, very clear, which is important for machines when you're driving and you need to see where you're going. So we have 100% UV resistant in our material, which means that sunlight cannot really change its optical properties. So after 10, 15 years, the window will still look the same and be the same clear as on day one. The flexing obviously helps also with distributing the energy in the right way. I mean, even if you have a large rock that comes into it, it doesn't hit a completely straight surface. It actually does, with the flexing, distribute the energy in a good way all around the surface, and therefore makes it even more durable and break resistant. Those grids maybe take away a big rock, yes, but if you have smaller rocks with high speed, they will fit directly through the openings of the grid and still will smash the window or even hurt the driver behind the grid. So we feel that this solution is more safe, and it also gives the driver a complete view on his work environment, which is also a safety aspect on top of it. If you don't see exactly what you're doing, it becomes more dangerous. Open pit mining, then we work a lot with demolition, where it's a really popular product, material handling, recycling, the whole forestry industry with the big tree logs, or also the chainsaw problems. There is really multiple applications, and you know what? A window can break while you're doing a normal road construction. That's also an issue. It can always happen, so better be safe than sorry, right?
Now, the star of that show obviously was Hammerglass, the product itself, but the co-star was our man Florian, who's here. Good morning, Florian.
Hello, good morning, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Hey, it's an absolute pleasure. As I was saying before we actually played the film, I came away very impressed with Liebherr and Komatsu and Hitachi and all of these things. But the one that stuck in my mind was unquestionably Hammerglass. It's quite an impressive product. How long has that actually been in development, or how long has it been available even?
The company itself, Hammerglass, is already on the market working with these kind of materials since the late 1990s, actually. But we started to work also in the construction machine world and windows for machines and even cars from 2006. So it's been around for a long time, especially here in Scandinavia and in Sweden, where we are from. But we have some experience, and it has a long development history.
One of the things that impressed me most about the Hammerglass display was the way that you got the audience interaction. On the face at Hillhead, there were lots of people paying lots of money for operators to drive their machines. You just put a cab in place and let everybody have a good whack with a sledgehammer. But it worked perfectly well.
Yeah, the thing is, I think if you can try something yourself, like people are used to take a sledgehammer and hit any glass in any machine today, and it will break. So if you get this emotional experience by having with your own power and feel like, okay, I'm hitting this, it's quite funny when people start to hit it, they always just hit a little bit because they're afraid, oh, this is going to break directly, until they realize, no, I hit it harder. It still doesn't. And I hit it harder again. So it gives you a more emotional, I think, feedback by doing it yourself than it does otherwise by just watching something, if you understand what I want to say.
What anybody that's following us on Instagram will be aware of this. We actually put an Instagram post out of the Hammerglass being hit at Hillhead. 1.7 million views so far. And a lot of people have been saying over on there, we didn't hit it hard enough. We definitely did. And if you hit it in the corner of the window, it would make a difference. We did that as well. It makes no difference at all, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. And it's quite funny to see when you do these things on fairs, especially with people, they want to show like, no, I can break it and so on. And I can tell you, we had sometimes on the fairs at the end of the day when you probably had 600-700 hits on that with a sledgehammer, I myself thinking like, this must break now at one stage. It's actually every time, even for myself, a little bit like, wow, it still holds up. And yeah, it doesn't have a weak point really in that regard that you say, oh, I hit the edge and then it happens. That's not how the material is made. And yeah, it doesn't matter where you hit it, as you saw yourself.
Given the fact that we've got a lot of operators actually in the audience here, one of the things that I think is worth noting, obviously we filmed that from the outside and you can see there are scratches on the outside, but there is nothing on the inside at all. Nothing at all. There's not cracks, or the inside is completely unharmed, right?
Yes, and the system that has been hit during the fair and that you can see in the video is our Hammerglass guard, which is a system to replace the grid guards or the FOBS guards that you usually have in front of the machines. And that has actually two windows inside. So what you see the people hitting is only 4mm Hammerglass, and behind it is a 12mm Hammerglass window. So you'll always have a two-window solution. And the 4mm is exactly to take all these little dents and scratches that you will get over a certain amount of time when you walk in a quarry, for example, and then you can replace it again and again. So the 12mm will never be touched usually during the whole machine life, unless you would have a huge accident where maybe the 12mm gets a little bit scratched also. But it's usually the 4mm that people are hitting and that you can replace anytime you want.
We've had a couple of comments here. Steve Williamson, this is what we say in the UK is closing the door after the horse is bolted. I needed Hammerglass on the big side window. I tracked over a spray can buried in the ground and it blew, throwing stones and the window shattered and fell in. That was last week. Some scare. Call Florian. I'm sure he can help you out. Here's a good question, though, from Gary Muirhead, another operator. Can you polish out scratching or damage to it? Can you polish out?
No, very little surface scratches. You can actually, but it depends obviously how deep the scratches are and if you have like stones flying in there. If you would have a rock that is the size of a fist flying in there, let's say with 200-300 kilometers an hour, then you would have a little dot on the outer window. You won't have like as big as you saw with a sledgehammer, which is obviously extreme. And it will look like maybe a stone chip in a car window, or like just a little dot that doesn't go bigger but stays the little dot it is. And that's why we have this screensaver solution with a 4mm, because if you after a year or 2 years in those environments have maybe 10 of those dots, and every of those dots would have been a broken glass window in the past, you just replace the 4mm when you feel like, okay, now I have a few of those dots in my viewing field. But those you can't polish out. No, they are there, but they will have the solution to exchange the 4mm in that case.
Okay, more questions. One from Dan Cullen. What is the cost and what pressure will it take before it gives way? I'll leave Florian to answer that. But one of the things, if you get a moment, go and have a look at the Hammerglass YouTube channel, where they're actually dropping boulders onto pieces of this polycarbonate. It really is very impressive. But what is the cost differential, Florian?
If we're talking about the pure window replacement, meaning like the guy you had before with his side window, Hammerglass is usually around 20 to 30% more expensive than the original glass window from the manufacturer. So that gives you an idea. So 20-30% more than you would pay for the next glass window that will break again. If we're talking about the Hammerglass guard solution, which replaces your metal bars and the grid and is fully certified for that, you're looking around the same cost as those metal bar guards, I would say. But it depends a little bit from machine to machine, from model to model, and so on. But this is a roundabout figure. Regarding the breaking point, we obviously try to test our products to the limit. We do an explosion test with each of those guards, 3 kilos TNT from 3 meter distance, which doesn't break it. We have that certificate. We do a FOBS level 2 testing, 250 kilos from 5 meter height. Again, it's a certificate we have and that can take it. But we don't go on and say, let's drop 500 kilos and let's drop a ton or something like that, because obviously there will be at one stage a point where it breaks. But what we have seen so far, that there are more damages on the rest of the machine than on the Hammerglass if you have a really heavy hit, to be honest. So I haven't seen it breaking.
Chris Ford says, and it's Chris's birthday today, so good morning, Chris, and happy birthday. How do you go on, as a lot of windows have a curve in them? Is Hammerglass glass made for specific machines?
Yes, we do have probably by now around 1,600 articles in our database for all the brands, I would say, that are the players in the market. So you always order the specific window for the specific machine. So we have those already made. And if they are curved, they also come curved from us. So if you have a curved window, we can actually warm form the material and make curved windows the same way you can make a glass window into a curved window. You will always get an article that you order. You don't do anything yourself. You get a window that exactly fits and looks like the original glass window, is installed the same way as the original glass window, and you just install it into your machine.
Steve Williamson says, was it Hammerglass that were demonstrating on the Menzimuck booth at Bauma last time? I think it was.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. Yes. Menzimuck is a very good partner of ours. We're working with them for many years. They use the material in their machines from factory. And yes, it was us. And it will be on the next Bauma. If you come by, you will find us again with Menzimuck next.
Well, I will certainly be there, and I'm fairly sure Steve Williamson will be there. He asked another question. Can you get Hammerglass pre-tinted?
We do have a what we call IR material, which has a green tint to it already, so you can buy that. It is 50% heat reducing, that's why we're tinting it. You can use that in all windows in your machine except for the front window because of the certification for the road. You can't use a tinted window in the front, but no tinted window at all, no matter if it's glass or Hammerglass. But all our roof windows, for example, that we do for the excavators and wheel loaders are always, and wheel loaders doesn't have roofs usually, but for the excavators are always this IR material because usually the sun comes from the top and then you have this green tint. If you want other tints for more, I don't know, optical reasons and look reasons, you need to work with tinting foils that you can put on the Hammerglass. Also, if you want it gray tinted or red tinted or whatever.
I think he's after a birthday discount here. Chris Ford says, I'm getting excited, sat here learning about Hammerglass. I think they might have a new customer. Florian, meet Chris, meet Florian. Gary Muirhead has just said the cost of Hammerglass could be offset against not paying for vandalism guards as well. Yeah, we've been talking about sort of operational protection, but vandal guards, that's another item altogether.
Yeah, and it's actually quite funny. We are a Swedish company and we work, I would say UK is now the last European market that we are starting off in. We are more popular already, I would say, in Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and so on. And I do have to say the vandalism issue seems to be a very UK-based issue. We don't have this really in Sweden at the same time where you have it there. And it was one of the first things that people came and said, whoa, great, wait a second. If I have this in my machine, nobody can also break in from the outside. And yes, you're right. You have this protection too. If somebody throws a beer bottle or a stone in it to get in, they won't get in either. We have in Hammerglass, we're also working not only for machines, but we also have a property section that secures buildings. So we are working with jewelry shops and stuff like that for break-in protection also.
I'd love to see some CCTV of somebody trying to break into a jewelry shop with Hammerglass. they'd be there the whole night, I think.
Go to our webpage or to our YouTube channel. It exists. We have 2 original windows, one inside a jewelry shop where they tried to hit and break up the display cases that are made of Hammerglass and have to leave again. And one actually in the UK on the outside on the door where they're trying to break into it with the use of a car and a wood pellet by driving it into the door and have to leave again after 30 seconds because they don't get in. So those 2 videos actually exist on our YouTube channel and on our homepage.
I'm going to go and check those out. Steve Williamson says vandal guards are a pain in the arse thing to fit with Hammerglass. You don't need it. Great, indeed. Steve also makes this point, which I think is a valid one. Is the Hammerglass system patented? Because it's something that other brands, OEM brands, should be fitting. You actually deal with some of the OEM brands already, don't you?
Yes, we do. We have B is our most long-lasting OEM partner. We delivered to JCB for 10 years for their side dumper that has a cabin in front of the loading area. They're using Hammerglass there in the front. Also Merlo, Ennagreen, Menzimuck, I just mentioned, and a few others that we already deal with towards the factory. And the other question, sorry, now I lost the track on the rest of the question, but we have the OEM side. We're working with the OEMs directly, yes.
Yeah, the other part of the question was, is it patented? I guess there is.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, so our Hammerglass guard system, which is the frame system that replaces the FOPS guards and the steel bars, That is a worldwide patent. Yes, there we have a worldwide patent on. The material itself is a little bit like Coca-Cola. It's in the composition of the material, all the different resins you use to produce it. So there is not a patent, but it is a formula secret that only we have.
I'll come to Steve again in just a second. What sort of temperature can Hammerglass take if it's working in a steelworks near heat and a furnace? I guess it's been tested with highs and lows of temperature.
So the testings we have is plus 90 and minus 60 degrees is tested and certified. But we have quite a lot of customers who use it on wheel loaders in the steel mills, where they go in and take out the hot metal into their buckets and are exposed to 600 degrees for a short amount of time. And we're very successful on there because they have the problem if they have glass in the machines and they have a little hot steel part that hits it, usually the glass cracks directly, even if it's like bulletproof safety glass or whatever. Whereas our product with the 2 windows, those little steel hot parts go just into the 4 millimeter, and then you again change the 4 millimeter after a while. So we do this a lot for steel plants. They're very happy with the solution.
One of the questions that came up a lot on our Instagram post was the ability to escape from a cab. If a machine rolls over, I think traditionally you could probably kick out the front window and get yourself out to safety. Obviously, you're not going to kick your way out of Hammerglass. What is your take on that? I realize there are other windows to climb through, but that was a big question.
Yeah, there is obviously rules for this, and there is like a machine directive that tells you about your emergency exits, and you usually have to have 2 in each machine. One is always the door, and the other one is usually in an excavator, the rear window. If you really choose to take the whole cabin with Hammerglass, every single window, also the rear, then you're right. Then you can't have the little hammer anymore to break the rear window to get out. But for that case, we supply actually Hammerglass in a little frame that we produce that has handles on the inside, and you take out the whole window, and also for a key on the outside to take out the window. And that is an approved solution. So you need to do this if you really make the whole machine in Hammerglass. But then in demolition and all these kind of things, they usually just leave the rear window with glass because they usually don't have problems from the back. That's more in mining or something when they're really underground and something can happen from everywhere. But in that case, we have a special emergency exit solution for all the machine models that you can use, and you still have your 2 emergency exits approved.
I thought you would have thought of that, but I'm pleased to say that you did. Jim Turner says, could it be used as a double glazed unit and used in a normal house window? My guess is it probably can.
Yes, we're having actually a property business, as I said, in Hammerglass, which does exactly that. We even make insulated glass units. We have an insulation machine that makes insulated glass. We can combine glass and Hammerglass. So if you have already windows in your house that you don't want to take out, we have what we call an add-on system that you add on to the outside of that window or to the inside of the window to protect also houses. So we do actually private houses, especially on the ground floors where burglary resistance and break-in cannot happen anymore.
Dan Collins just said this, amazing to see JCB involved with this product. Have you got the NFDC, that's the National Federation of Demolition Contractors, to confirm on demolition jobs and health and safety, executive safety, so you can exclude the bars on the window? That was one of the questions that I asked while we were at Hillhead. A demolition specification excavator in the UK has guards top and front.
Yes.
Legally, can you just take those off and carry on? I don't know what the...
Legally, it's the machine directive that helps you with that, and the ISO standard. And in this ISO standard, it basically says that you need a FOPS tested operator protective guard on the machine. And that is this FOPS level 2 test that I'm talking a lot about, where they have this 250 kilo weight that they drop from 5.2 meters, I think, in the height. That's how they test those steel guards. And we have the same test with our product. So that means we have that certificate, which is the same that the steel guard needs to go through. So that means, yes, already certified. With the certification you get on a plaque with the frame and with a certificate in written that you can put into your glove compartment or whatever, we are certified on that. There are certain, like in Germany, for example, the BauBG, which is, I think, the same version what you were talking about in the UK, they are even recommending Hammerglass as a solution for these FOPS guards. On the roof, you still need to have it. So what you do is you still have your grid on the roof and you put the gridless part on the front instead of the front guard, because for the roof you need to also have a FOBS level 2 approved, and for that it's not enough to just put a Hammerglass window on the roof. It's the whole roof that needs to be FOBS level 2 approved. So for that you put your grid on the top in a demolition machine, but you put the Hammerglass guard on the front, because usually, I mean, you look through the front most of the time when you're working also in demolition, and then you have your free view without anything disturbing you, and on the top you still have your grid guard.
Awesome. Chris Ford says, is it a specialist operation to replace a window, or can anyone do it? I guess if you've got this database of existing machines, it is just a pop in and pop out,
Yes.
is it?
Yeah, it's installed into the cabin in the same way as the original glass window. So usually they are glued in many ways. In most of the times, the upper front window is glued. It comes with this black mask around it for the primer and for the glue and so on. And the lower one is often just put into a little frame. So that's the same here with Hammerglass then. Installation is the same as the original window. And anybody who can install a glass window into a cabin can install a Hammerglass window into a cabin. It's done a lot by glaziers, but a lot of our customers who have done this before, they do it themselves. So yeah, it's not much harder than, or not at all harder than the original one.
Awesome. Steve Williamson says, have you done any agricultural vehicles?
A few we have done, yes. Often the back window of the tractors or the side windows when they're using it for mulching, or the infamous hedge cutting, which only exists in the UK and Ireland because you have hedges on all your roads. And yes, we have done a few of those, not many. So it depends on what tractor you have. We can look in our database. Yes, we have it already, or we don't. If we don't have it done yet, we can do it. We can do any window in Hammerglass in a very short amount of time, provided we get a drawing on the measurements and the size and rounded edges or whatever, so we can actually copy the original window.
Okay, I think you may have answered this, but here's Dan Cullen. If you remove just the window bars only, would it still get past the health and safety executive?
If you remove the bars and put the Hammerglass guard solution on the machine, it is absolutely approved by the HSE, and we'll go through it because we have the same certification that you have for the bars.
Okay. Are you offering factory fit Hammerglass? I guess that's going to be linked to the OEMs that you're working with, like JCB, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, as I said, we're working with a few OEMs. Some of them, if I take now Merlo with their 3M brand for forestry, if we take Energreen, they are actually selling the machines with Hammerglass completely. So it's not even an option. You get it from factory with Hammerglass because they believe it's the best solution and most safe for their customers and drivers. And then we have others, if we're looking at Liebherr, Sendibogen and so on, that offer it as an option where you can, as the customer, ask and say, oh, I want it with Hammerglass instead. Then they will do the build-up of the cabin with Hammerglass.
Awesome. Steve Williamson says we need Hammerglass iPhone screens. Yes, we do. Let's have a look. Chris Ford also says, sounds great. Pity I missed Hillhead. Sounds like something I actually need. And Gary Muirhead says, smart thinking, Hammerglass. Sounds like you've every angle covered. Great presentation. Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree.
Thank you very much. Very nice to hear. And thanks so much for the exposure. I was thinking, like, with your mystery machine, if that is outfitted with Hammerglass or not. So I'll still wait what it's going to be.
Let me just tell you, it predates Hammerglass by a lot of years. It's a bit older than Hammerglass, so yeah.
But you can retrofit it. You can also fit it. You know, it's not a worry. If you have a broken window in the machine, even if it's 20 years old, we probably will have the solution because we're on the market for so long.
Fantastic stuff. Look, I'm going to let you go, Florian, because I know I've taken up most of your morning, and I know you're going on vacation this week as well, so I don't want to hold you up any longer. What we'll do, if there's any more questions, what I'll do, I'll gather them all together and I'll send them to you to answer at your leisure. How about that?
Absolutely. It was a real pleasure and a joy, and I could do this another hour, no worries. And yeah, I just say thank you. It's fantastic work that you're doing. It's very entertaining also the way you're doing it, and really interesting. And it's great to see that people are dedicated on this, and especially also take on the safety part of things, because I think this is something that is sometimes too neglected in our business. I think we're very important to look at electrification and all these kind of things, but still there is a person behind a wheel sitting in these damn things, and like if there are a solution to keep that person safe, why should he have a more unsafe place than sitting in front of a computer and typing all day. So it's really great to see that people are taking this on and say, hey, there is something that keeps people more safe.
You were speaking too long because we've had another question, and this one comes from Mr. Adrian McLean of Armac Demolition, who says, is there a UK supplier?
Yeah, we have a partner in the UK that can supply and also can install, for example. It's also a thing. So if somebody is interested to say, I also want somebody to come here and fit the machine, we can sort that. So we have a partner in the UK that we're working with. And otherwise, always contact us or me directly, and I will get it on to the right channel so that you get help in the best possible way.
Awesome. I've sent Adrian your email address already. If there is a UK installer, then you got
exactly
that yourselves.
Yes.
Excellent. Just one final thing. Steve Williamson says, great presentation. I will pop by for coffee at Bauma.
Absolutely. We have some beer too.
It's in Germany. Of course you have beer. It's not even optional there, is it? You have to have the beer. Florian, you've been an absolute star. Thank you ever so much for your help at Hillhead. Thank you even more for your help this morning. Wish you well with Hammerglass, and I'll be speaking to you very soon.
Thank you for having me. Have a great show.
Thank you very much indeed.